Today we're covering infectious and inflammatory eye conditions, 4 conditions that move from the outermost eyelid margin all the way to the deep orbital tissues. Blepharitis, keratitis, uveitis, and orbital cellulitis. These range from a chronic nuisance to a life-threatening emergency, and knowing the difference is exactly what we're going to drill today. By the end of this lecture, you will know what each condition looks like, what the serious complications are, and what your management priorities are for each one. Let's get into it.
Think of these 4 conditions as a layered map, moving from outside the eye inward. Zone 1 is blepharitis, the eyelid margins, the outermost layer. Chronic, maintenance level management. Zone 2 is keratitis, the cornea, your transparent window into the eye. Acute and potentially vision-threatening. Zone 3 is uveitis, the uveal tract deep inside the eye, the iris, ciliary body, and choroid. Acute and vision-threatening with serious complications. Zone 4 is orbital cellulitis, the tissues surrounding the entire globe, a life-threatening emergency. That zone framework tells you the urgency and the management intensity for each condition. As you move inward, the stakes go up. Blepharitis is chronic inflammation of the eyelid margins, and it is one of the most common eye conditions you'll encounter. 2 main drivers: bacterial overgrowth, most commonly Staphylococcus, and linked dermatological conditions like seborrheic dermatitis and rosacea. If your patient has chronic dandruff or rosacea, check their eyelids. The symptoms are classic: burning and itching along the eyelids, crusting and debris at the lash line. Patients often describe waking up with their lids stuck together. Red, swollen eyelid margins with a greasy appearance, possible lash loss, and recurring styes or chalasia. A stye is an acute infection of a lid gland. A chalazion is the chronic granulomatous response that can develop afterward. When a patient tells you they keep getting styes, chronic blepharitis is almost always the root cause. You're not just treating the stye, you're treating the underlying eyelid margin disease. Blepharitis management is a maintenance loop, not a one-time fix. There is no cure. This is a chronic condition that requires ongoing hygiene to control. 3 components that work together. Heat therapy. Warm compresses applied to the closed eyelids for several minutes daily. The heat loosens debris and opens clogged meibomian glands, so the lipid layer of the tear film can flow properly. Mechanical hygiene. After the warm compress, scrub the eyelid margins with diluted baby shampoo on a washcloth or a commercial lid scrub wipe. You're physically removing the bacterial biofilm and debris from the lash line. This is the step patients skip, and it's the step that makes the difference. Antimicrobial control. If bacterial infection is present or the patient has a flare, topical antibiotics are added. Your patient education goal is to get them to understand this is like brushing teeth. You do it every day to maintain, not just when things get bad. Patients who comply consistently have far fewer styes and chalasia. Patients who stop when they feel better are back in your office in 3 months. Keratitis is inflammation of the cornea, and it can be caused by infectious or non-infectious triggers. On the infectious side, bacteria, viruses, especially herpes simplex, fungi, and parasites. Acanthamoeba keratitis is the parasite worth knowing. It's associated specifically with contact lens wear and exposure to contaminated water. On the non-infectious side, physical or chemical trauma and contact lens overuse. That last one is critical. Contact lenses are the #1 risk factor for infectious keratitis in developed countries. Patients who sleep in their contacts, overwear them, use tap water to rinse them, or swim in them, are putting themselves at serious risk. The symptom profile of keratitis is distinctive: eye pain, redness, tearing, photophobia that is often severe, and a foreign body sensation. Photophobia in a patient with eye pain should always get your attention. It's the hallmark of anterior segment inflammation, and it needs to be evaluated, not dismissed. The escalating risk ladder of untreated keratitis tells you why you take this seriously. Inflammation starts the cascade. If not adequately treated, you get corneal scarring and ulceration. The scarring impairs transparency and reduces vision. Ulceration can progress to corneal perforation. The cornea literally develops a hole. and perforation leads to permanent vision loss. That is the endpoint of untreated keratitis. Management follows the cause. Antimicrobial drops targeted to the causative pathogen. Bacterial keratitis gets antibiotics, viral gets antivirals, fungal gets antifungals. You don't use the same drop for every case. Lubricating drops or ointments protect and soothe the compromised corneal surface. And for severe cases with significant structural damage, surgical intervention, corneal transplantation, may be the only way to restore vision. Your nursing role here is patient education about medication compliance and follow-up, and flagging any worsening symptoms immediately. Uveitis is inflammation of the uveal tract, the iris, ciliary body, and choroid. These are three critical internal structures, and inflammation here requires urgent mitigation to prevent permanent structural damage. Let's orient to the anatomy. The iris controls pupil size and is the colored part of the eye. The ciliary body produces aqueous humor and controls lens shape. The choroid is the vascular layer nourishing the outer retina. When any or all of these are inflamed, you have deep intraocular pathology that can cause some of the most serious complications we've discussed in this entire ocular unit: secondary glaucoma, cataracts, and semichiae. Uveitis can be caused by infection, autoimmune disease, or systemic inflammatory conditions like ankylosing spondylitis, sarcoidosis, or inflammatory bowel disease. Recurrent uveitis always warrants a workup for an underlying systemic cause. Two types of uveitis with very different clinical presentations. Non-granulomatous uveitis, acute and rapid onset. The patient comes in with severe pain and distinct photophobia, redness concentrated near the cornea, that's the ciliary flush pattern, and blurred vision. On exam, you see a small or irregular pupil from iris spasm and possibly hypopyon, that's pus visibly pooling in the anterior chamber as a white fluid level. That hypopyon is a dramatic finding you won't miss. Non-granulomatous uveitis is loud. It announces itself. Granulomatous uveitis is the opposite, slow and insidious, less acute pain, a chronic smoldering course. And here's the danger. It carries a significantly higher risk of severe, permanent vision loss, precisely because it's quiet. Patients delay seeking care because they don't hurt as much, and by the time they come in, the structural damage is already underway. The quiet one is the dangerous one. Know that distinction. Untreated or inadequately treated uveitis triggers a structural cascade that can permanently destroy vision. Severe inflammation causes synechia. The iris physically adheres to the cornea anteriorly or to the lens posteriorly. These adhesions are a mechanical problem. Posterior synechia between the iris and lens can block the flow of aqueous humor through the pupil, causing pressure to build. That leads to secondary glaucoma. The inflammation itself also accelerates cataract formation in the lens. So from one inflammatory episode, you can develop glaucoma and cataracts simultaneously. Management targets all of this. Pharmacological blockade. Mydriatic drops like cyclopentolate or atropine dilate the pupil and keep the iris mobile, mechanically preventing synechia from forming and reducing ciliary spasm. Corticosteroid drops suppress the underlying inflammation. Dark glasses for photophobia comfort. And if uveitis is recurrent, a full workup for infectious or autoimmune cause is warranted, because you're not managing a symptom, you're managing a disease. Orbital cellulitis is infection of the soft tissues surrounding the eyeball, not the eye itself, but the orbit around it. And this is where we shift from vision-threatening to life-threatening. The primary vector in the vast majority of cases is sinusitis, specifically ethmoid sinusitis. The ethmoid sinus sits directly medial to the orbit, separated by a thin bony wall. When that sinus gets infected, bacteria can spread directly into the orbital space. Secondary vectors include skin infections, dental abscesses, trauma, and spread from adjacent ocular infections like dacryocystitis. The dominant organisms in adults are Staphylococcus and Streptococcus. This is a condition that can escalate from a sinus infection to a life-threatening intracranial emergency rapidly. And your recognition of the warning signs is what triggers the intervention that prevents that escalation. Know these two categories of signs and what they mean. Local ocular signs, pain and severe swelling of the eyelids, chemosis, which is pronounced conjunctival edema, proptosis, which is bulging of the eye forward from the orbital pressure, and decreased ocular motility. These local signs tell you the orbit is involved. CNS and systemic red flags. Optic nerve compression causing acute vision loss, fever, nausea and vomiting, cognitive changes, or altered mental status. These systemic signs tell you the infection is spreading beyond the orbit toward the intracranial space. When you see CNS red flags in a patient with orbital swelling, this is no longer just an ophthalmology problem. This is a multidisciplinary emergency. Cavernous sinus thrombosis is the catastrophic endpoint. The infection spreads from the orbit through the superior ophthalmic vein into the cavernous sinus, causing thrombosis that can be fatal. Fever plus orbital signs plus mental status changes. Act immediately. 3-step emergency protocol. Step 1. Isolate and attack. Obtain blood cultures and gram stain before starting antibiotics if time allows, but do not delay treatment waiting for results. Then, immediately initiate high-dose IV broad-spectrum antibiotics. In orbital cellulitis, you do not start oral antibiotics and see how it goes. IV, high dose, immediately. Step 2. Vigilant monitoring. Frequent reassessment of vision, eye movement, and neurological signs. You are watching for deterioration that signals progression toward intracranial spread. If vision is worsening, if motility is declining, if new neurological signs emerge, escalate now. Step 3. Surgical and specialist escalation. Urgent ENT consultation when sinusitis is suspected, which is most of the time. Surgical drainage for abscess formation or deteriorating vision. Sinusotomy and antibiotic irrigation when indicated. The warning on this slide is the one you need burned into your memory. Immediate intervention is required to prevent intracranial abscess and life-threatening cavernous sinus thrombosis. This is not a watch-and-wait condition. This is your side-by-side reference for all 4 conditions. Blepharitis. Affects the eyelid margins. Hallmark signs are crusting and greasy margins. Primary complication is recurring styes and chalasia. First-line action is lid hygiene and warm compresses. Keratitis. Affects the cornea. Hallmark signs are foreign body sensation and photophobia. Primary complication is corneal ulceration and perforation. First-line action is targeted antimicrobials. Uveitis. Affects the uveal tract, iris, ciliary body, choroid. Hallmark signs are irregular pupil and possible hypopyon. Primary complication is synechiae, leading to secondary glaucoma. First-line action is mydriatics and corticosteroids. Orbital cellulitis. Affects the surrounding orbital tissues. Hallmark signs are proptosis and chemosis and motility loss. Primary complication is cavernous sinus thrombosis. First-line action is immediate IV broad-spectrum antibiotics. Study this matrix. Know which anatomical structure each condition targets, what the signature finding is, and what the most dangerous complication is. That's your rapid triage framework. 3 outcomes you absolutely cannot let happen because they are either irreversible or life-threatening. Threat 1. Permanent vision loss. Keratitis via corneal scarring and perforation. Uveitis via granulomatous progression with structural damage. Orbital cellulitis via optic nerve compression. 3 different conditions, same devastating endpoint. Catch them early, treat aggressively. Threat 2. Secondary glaucoma. Uveitis via unmitigated synechiae formation and fluid blockage. The iris adhesions obstruct aqueous outflow, pressure builds, the optic nerve is damaged. This is why mydriatic drops are not optional in uveitis management. They mechanically break the cascade before it starts. Threat 3. Lethal intracranial spread. Orbital cellulitis leading to intracranial abscess or cavernous sinus thrombosis. This is the one that kills. Fever, altered mental status, orbital signs together? That combination demands immediate escalation. These 3 threats define your clinical endpoints. Everything you do in managing these conditions is aimed at preventing these 3 outcomes. 3 core precepts to close this lecture, principles that apply across all 4 conditions. Structural proximity dictates risk. Always trace severe periorbital infections back to the sinuses. The ethmoid sinus is the primary gateway to the orbit. A patient with orbital cellulitis almost certainly has sinusitis you haven't addressed yet. ENT is your partner in these cases. Suppress inflammation to save architecture. In deep ocular conditions like uveitis, aggressive inflammatory control with corticosteroids and mechanical prevention with mydriatics are required to prevent permanent anatomical distortion, synechia, secondary glaucoma, cataracts. You're not just making the patient comfortable, you're protecting the physical structure of the eye. Differentiate surface irritation from deep pathology. Never ignore systemic signs, fever, cognitive changes, or physical displacement like proptosis and motility loss. These are red flag indicators in a pattern. When you see them together, immediately escalate the case from outpatient care to an IV antibiotic emergency. Surface irritation stays outpatient. Deep pathology with systemic signs goes inpatient, right now. That's your clinical judgment framework.